It was supposed to be our forever home, the quiet house on a quiet street, the kind of place where you hear lawnmowers on a Saturday and nothing else. The first week was bliss. We unpacked boxes, painted walls, and dreamed about the life we'd build within these four walls. Then, on Tuesday night, the knocking started. A soft, rhythmic tap-tap-tap coming from somewhere below. I checked the pipes, the water heater, everything. It made no sense. This house was built on a solid concrete slab. There is no basement. There's nothing under the floorboards but earth. My husband, Mark, said it was just the house settling. Old houses make noises, he'd say, smiling that easy smile of his. He could explain away anything, but the sound wasn't settling. It was intentional. It was a pattern. 3 knocks, a pause. 3 more. It felt like a code, a message from a place that shouldn't exist. Sleep became a luxury I couldn't afford. I'd lie awake, staring at the ceiling, my heart pounding in time with the knocking. Every creak of the house, every rustle of leaves outside, felt like a prelude to something terrible. I started exploring. During the day, when the sun streamed through the windows and the world felt normal, I'd search for the source. I'd press my ear to the hardwood floors in every room, trying to pinpoint the origin. It seemed strongest in the hallway, right outside our bedroom. I'd run my hands over the floorboards, looking for a loose plank, a hidden latch, anything that hinted at an access point. But there was nothing. The floor was seamless, solid. Mark thought I was becoming obsessed. He'd find me on my hands and knees, tapping on the wood, and shake his head. Honey, you're going to drive yourself crazy. Maybe I already was. The house began to feel different. The air grew heavy, thick with an unspoken tension. Hallways that once felt welcoming now seemed to stretch into infinity, their shadows deepening. Lights would flicker for a split second, just long enough for me to question if I'd even seen it. Doors I knew I'd closed would be found slightly ajar. I started documenting it all in a small notebook, jotting down every strange occurrence every time I heard the knocks. The entries became more frequent, my handwriting more frantic. I felt like a detective in my own home, investigating a crime with no victim and no perpetrator. Just a persistent, maddening sound. One afternoon, while Mark was at work, I was cleaning out the back of the linen closet. It was deep, deeper than it should have been. My fingers brushed against the back wall, and the paneling felt loose. My breath caught in my throat. I pushed, and a section of the wall gave way, revealing a dark, narrow opening. A crawl space. My heart hammered against my ribs. The air that wafted out was stale and cold, carrying the scent of damp earth and something else, something metallic and vaguely sweet. This wasn't on the blueprints. We had the original plans for the house. There was no mention of any crawl space. It wasn't supposed to be here. Armed with a flashlight, I squeezed through the opening. The space was tight, claustrophobic, wooden beams and pipes crisscrossed above my head, covered in a century's worth of cobwebs. I crawled forward on my hands and knees, the flashlight beam cutting a nervous path through the darkness. The floor beneath me was just packed dirt. And then I saw them, scratches, deep gouges in the dirt, running parallel to the house's foundation. They were long and deliberate, like someone had been dragging their fingers through the soil, over and over again. And lying near the scratches was a small, tarnished silver locket. I picked it up, my fingers trembling. The clasp was stiff, but I managed to pry it open. Inside, there were no pictures. Instead, etched into the metal on one side was a name, Eleanor, on the other, a date from 1958. Who was Eleanor? Why was her locket hidden in this secret crawl space? A cold thread washed over me. This wasn't just a house settling. This was a story. A story I had unwillingly become a part of. I scrambled back out of the crawl space, the locket clutched in my hand, my mind racing, the knocking, the scratches, Eleanor. The pieces were starting to form a picture I didn't want to see. That night, the knocking changed. It was louder now, more insistent, desperate. It wasn't just under the hallway anymore. It felt like it was everywhere, under my bed, under the living room sofa. The whole house vibrated with it. Mark heard it too, this time. The color drained from his face as he sat bolt upright in bed. "What is that?" he whispered. I didn't answer. I just held up the locket. The walls around us began to tremble, a low groan emanating from the very structure of the house. The lights flickered violently, then went out, plunging us into absolute darkness. The knocking stopped, and in the sudden, deafening silence, we heard a new sound. A faint, scratching noise. It was coming from inside our bedroom wall. I went to the library the next day, the locket heavy in my pocket. I spent hours digging through old town records and newspaper archives, and then I found it. An article from the autumn of 1958. A young woman named Eleanor Vance had disappeared from her home. The address was chillingly familiar. It was this house. She was reported missing by her husband. He told the police she had simply packed a bag and left one night. But her family never believed it. They said she was terrified of him, that she felt trapped. The police searched, but she was never found. No body, no note, no trace. She just vanished. The case went cold. Her husband sold the house a year later and moved away. Standing in my living room, the newspaper clipping shaking in my hand, everything clicked into place. The knocking wasn't a warning. It was a plea. It was Eleanor, trapped for decades beneath the floors of her own home. The hidden crawl space, the scratches in the dirt. It was her desperate attempt to get out, to be found. Her husband hadn't just built a house, he had built her a tomb. The house didn't have a basement because he had filled it in, burying his secret under concrete and hardwood. He had erased her, but her spirit, her anger, her sorrow, it remained. It was in the walls, under the floors, in the very air we breathed. This house wasn't haunted, it was held captive. And now, so were we. The knocking had started again, but it's different now. It's not just a sound anymore. It's a voice, and it's calling my name.